Welcome to the You Can Man podcast, episode 17. I'm Josh.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Dave.
And on this week's episode, you should keep that bolt.
All right, guys, welcome back. Dave, you just got back from vacation.
I did just get back from vacation. I don't think you can call it vacation. This is my first time taking two babies to the beach.
Negative.
Holy cow. Zero relaxing. You know what I'm saying?
That's a trip.
It was a trip. 3/4 of the people there got the stomach bug, which was just added to the fun. So, yeah, I mean, you go on vacation, you get sick. What else is there to do?
It's pretty bad. How was the weather, though?
The weather was great. Typical, we were in Alabama, but typical kind of Gulf Coast. Raining every day a little bit, but other than that, it was good. It was good.
Nice. Josh, what you got for us this week?
Well, did a major repair on my iPhone, which I haven't done in forever.
I don't. That's not true. You're always performing like surgery on your phone. It's like replacing the cover, like on the camera, the lens on the camera.
Yeah, and it's been a while. I mean, it's been probably 6 years since I've done something to an iPhone, and I figured like that kind of stuff had gone out the door. Like the product has been manipulated in such a way where the end user can't like take it apart and fix it anymore. But the one I have, the 6S Plus, which is, I know, 3 or 4 generations old at this point, had to replace the screen, the whole screen, which I was like, this is either going to go well or I'm replacing my phone.
Yep.
So $32 on Amazon
that was my
for
first
a
question.
new screen, super detailed instructions, a dozen of the tiniest screws you've ever seen. But I did it, and it works.
How long did it take?
It only took literally probably 24 minutes.
Wow. So my wife, maybe like a year ago, I think she dropped her phone, screen broke, and it wasn't working. So she took it to like a third-party place. Mm-hmm. And I think Apple charged like $130 or maybe $150 to replace it. This place was $100. So she did that, and a week later, dead screen.
Yeah.
And so then you have to go to Apple. So then you're like $250
Did you have
out.
any dead pixels on your screen? Because aftermarket screens sometimes have those. I replaced one on an iPad, and it had a dead pixel.
We're good. We're good right now.
I see it over there on the table. It looks good.
Yeah, so far so good. It might be eating battery faster, but the battery wasn't like great to begin with. So
now it's terrible.
Were you able to reuse your tool set from the first time?
No, the new screen came with its own tool set. Like it's $32 all in. You're good. So that was exciting.
What about if you roll like Scrooge McDuck like I do, and you got the new 10? Is it the 10S? Can you replace that screen?
Couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you.
Well, they started doing all the waterproofing since the 6S.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Yeah.
So I would only assume that it's a lot harder.
Which I don't, the whole waterproofing thing, I've read, I can't remember the ANSI or whatever it is, that it's rated for, 1 meter for 30 minutes or something and, still water. It's not true. I dropped my phone in the toilet, okay? Dead phone.
With the waterproof one?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Huh.
Yeah, keep it out of the toilet.
It's not a good place for a phone.
So I got one more thing to talk about, unless you've got something, Tim.
No, I was just going to say that I had my best month ever. I've only been doing it for 3 months.
Of life? Or
Sorry, no. Selling barbecue. Yeah, several
right.
episodes back.
Congrats.
Talked about me doing catering sales for a barbecue restaurant. I'm all over the place, guys. All right?
Yeah, entrepreneur.
That's multiple streams of income. That's the goal, right?
I think that's becoming more and more common for people to do.
100%.
Lots of different things. But it was the best month ever for the entire store since they opened in 2012. Nice. I like to think I had a good bit to do.
Well, obviously.
There you go.
Anyways, go ahead. Josh.
Barbecue party. So I came across an article on LinkedIn, I believe, about I don't know why it caught my eye. All it kind of said was the median age now is 38. And that means that half the people in the country are above 38.2 and half of the country is below 38.2 years old. Now, it was interesting to me because I'm almost exactly 38 years old.
Oh.
So I'm like in the middle of the middle, and Tim is as well. He's about, same exact
I'll
age.
be 38 next month.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting fact, and they they went through some of the census statistics or the projections for 2018, 2019, and some interesting statistics about the birth rate is at its lowest level in 32 years.
Yeah, I just read that.
So there's less than 3.9 million babies under the age of 1, and that's the smallest age group until you get up to 64 to 65 years old.
Wow.
So the largest cohort, and this, can be seen as dangerous for our country, 27-year-olds. There's more 27-year-olds than anything else.
Than anybody else?
Yeah, so...
Hold on. Are you talking about like 1 year age ranges? 27?
Yes, people that are age 27 is the biggest
most
group age right now.
Huh.
Yeah, so think about back to when you were 27 and...
I was pretty good to go at 27.
27 is better than 23 or 22,
Way
for
better.
sure.
And I would assume that people living longer are throwing that median age higher.
Yep,
right?
we're driving it up a little bit. Americans 80 and older reached a record 12.7 million people. So there's 12.7 million people 80 or older.
Wow.
That is up 1.4 million people.
Didn't you just tell me that that Americans' life expectancy
Yes.
just went down for the first time in a
Yeah,
really
I
long
heard
time?
it was either last year or 2 years ago, but it dipped down for the first
Interesting.
time.
That's
ever.
because we're big.
It's
Yeah.
because
Yeah, we're
we
thick.
have it too
We
easy.
thick.
We have it too easy, and we're killing ourselves with
My grandmother
luxuries.
just turned 98.
That's amazing.
So
Jeez, you got
there
good
you go.
genes, man.
That's amazing.
She's still going.
So, any guesses to the oldest states and the youngest states?
Oldest states, Florida or Massachusetts
Okay.
or New York.
New York and Massachusetts are in the top 3.
Huh.
Good guesses. Maine is number 1.
Okay.
44.9 years old.
Interesting.
So,
the youngest state is
you're going to be like, oh, duh.
Hawaii.
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
Utah.
Oh,
Utah,
it's all
yeah.
the Mormons having all the babies, right?
Yep.
Okay,
So
that makes sense.
Utah, youngest state, 31-year-old. That's
Whoa.
a big swing from
Yeah.
44 down to 31. Now, the oldest county in the country is in Florida. Florida's Sumter County has a median age of 67.8.
Wow.
Some old folks.
So, yeah. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Half the country's older than me, half the country's younger
Yeah, I'm trying
than
to
me.
figure out what that means. Like, you haven't been in the middle of the whole time, but it's just
Right.
weird that like you've met up with the.
Yeah. I am part of
We all meet up
history.
at some point, right? I guess.
I don't know. I don't think so, because I think you can get older and then the,
Yeah,
the
you're right.
median
You're
can
right.
move down. So
Yeah, people keep living longer and longer, then that median age will get higher, so it could trend
yeah, it,
with you.
yep, it
Maybe.
trends.
To a certain point.
I'll
obviously.
check again next year to see if I'm special still.
All right. I appreciate, random statistics
Yeah.
like that every now and then.
Pointless stats.
All right, so our topic for today, guys. Now, you may be thinking, what does that mean? Save that bolt, or you should save that bolt. We're talking about small parts organization. Now, before we lose you here, all right, thinking like this is a boring topic.
It's riveting.
It's not. It's not a boring topic at all.
It's
It's
not-
so important.
It's a little boring, but it is important. It's very important.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me tell you the backstory of why I'm so passionate about keeping all my old nuts and bolts, all right, and random small parts and organizing them so I can easily find them later. When I was a kid, growing up in our neighborhood, there was a guy named Bob, and Bob was a war vet. Bob fought in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam.
That is a special
Okay,
man.
I kid you not. And until he retired in I got a note here, retired in 1973.
Man.
Sadly, we did lose Bob in 2004, but
Bob had some stories.
What
oh
a
yeah.
life.
So
Holy
it gets
cows.
better. Okay, so Bob was not just some ordinary war vet, which all of our war vets are amazingly special people for sure. But Bob was a POW during World War II. His plane collided with another American plane, and only Bob and one other guy survived
Oh
that
my
wreck.
gosh.
It's a bad day.
So after he wrecks, and he's like, one of the lone survivors of this crash, he's captured by the Nazis, and he spends 18 months in Stalag 17B as a POW.
Wow.
Right? So as a kid, we knew you just don't talk to Bob about it. We all wanted to.
Right.
Like, we wanted to talk about his war experiences, but we knew just from talking with other adults in the neighborhood, like, just
Don't bring it up.
Don't bring it up. Don't talk to Bob about his war experience. But how crazy is that? How you just don't hear that. The man fought in 3 wars.
That's amazing.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of folks out there that did that, but I don't know anybody who did it.
Yeah. So I'm friends with his grandson, right? So that was my connection with him. But so Bob kept small parts. He had, he was part of that generation, came out of the Great Depression, and they just...
You don't throw stuff away.
Yeah, a lot of them were pack rats. I wouldn't call Bob a pack rat, but he had so many just small nuts, bolts. Like, if we were ever working on any sort of project and we were short that one random bolt that we needed to put on the go-kart or whatever, we would go see Bob. We'd go to his garage. He seemed to always be out there.
Yeah.
We would just go.
He was just taking it easy at that point.
Every neighborhood has a Bob, or should have a Bob.
You could hand this man a bolt and be like, we need one more of these. And then he'd just start, slowly shuffling over to his small parts. He had just tons of them. And, he could look, he's the type of guy that could look at a bolt and be like, yeah, that, that's like a quarter 20. I mean, yeah. And he would go find it for us, so that we would always go to Bob to get small parts. And so I always thought, you know what? When I'm in my house, I want to be Bob one day, right? So the kids come around. I don't know. It's probably not going to happen, but to be the guy in the neighborhood that has a small
Go over to old Mr. Tim's house.
Yeah,
he's got what you need.
But when you're working on projects, you waste a ton of time. We've talked about this before about multiple trips to Home Depot, right?
Yeah.
So my thought is if I can catalog my small parts and do a really good job of, organizing them in such a way that I can actually find stuff, because there's one or two ways that you do this. Either you got the old coffee can with all the nuts and bolts all in it, right?
And nails.
Or, some old Tupperware thing or something all thrown in there, which my dad had. He had like a small spare parts bin, but most all of it was just in this random, bucket. You had to search through it all.
Right.
But if you have your things organized, then it's going to save you a trip to Home Depot. So I wanted to hear from you guys. If you guys do that, and if you don't, you need to be. But also, when is another time that you guys used some spare part that you kept? I've got a story of how I used it, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I am going. This is like therapy for me right now, because I'm an embarrassment. If you go to my garage, it's embarrassing right now. I'm going to use the excuse.
I can vouch for that.
I'm going to use the excuse that I need a shed. I have a lot of stuff in my garage that needs mostly landscaping things and a huge riding lawnmower that need to be out of my garage.
Every suburbanite needs a shed. It changed my life,
Yeah.
so it'll change yours too.
I have a massive organization problem. I'm semi-organized on I actually did break down and did the multiple Tupperware containers, the heavy-duty ones with the locking lids, and but that are smaller, so that I can get, I have just screws in one. I have just nails in another. I have staples in my staple gun in another. I have my caulk gun and all the tubes of caulk in another. And so I'm pretty organized in that way, but I do have the giant bucket of just random stuff
And
where
you've
I
gotta-
don't know what to do with that
And
stuff.
I had the same thing for quite a while, right? The huge thing of that. And finally one day I was like, you know what? Enough of this.
Enough.
And I'm going to go to Harbor Freight and they have super cheap organizing bins. I have 2 of them. And I just took, it probably took me days probably to go through individually and separate out. So, I got machine screws, I got wood screws, and then there's all kinds of different sizes with those.
Yep.
And I separated everything out. And the organizer that I have, it's clear plastic drawers. And so you can see what's in it. So important. That's going to help you so much when you're doing a project. What about you, Dave?
So I worked at a bike shop in college, and that's where I was first introduced to this concept of highly organized small parts. So we had on the wall these drawers that pulled out kind of at a 45-degree angle. And
They kind of dump out a little bit,
Yep.
like they rock down.
Yeah,
Yep.
I know that style.
And everything was just perfectly organized in there. All the drawers were labeled. So I, copied that same thing. I do the same thing in my house. Got the drawers. They pull out at a 45. They're not labeled. But it's super important, and it's, Josh said therapeutic, but it just feels good when you find that part that you need, that you've been looking for, and you're like, oh, I got it. So yeah, that's how I roll.
The time waste is a big thing.
I will
'Cause I'm in my garage rummaging so much
Yes.
because I'm not organized.
I will say the house that I'm in now, I bought it from an older guy, and he had they were like baby jars, baby food jars, and the lid was nailed or screwed to the
Under
underside
the
of a
shelf.
board,
Yep.
and he'd unscrew the jar of old baby food that was cleaned out, and he had stuff in there.
Do they still do baby jars in the glass bottles?
I don't think so. I haven't seen those since I've had kids, but I remember when I was younger.
None of us do the
Yeah, I
grocery
have
shopping, obviously.
I have a few of the baby
plastic.
bottles that are glass, and I actually do use those to.
Yeah, the ones we've had the past 4 years are in plastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it could still work if it's clear, right?
I don't think they have a screw top. I think they have the peel top.
Yeah, they have a peel top and then one that you can pop back on, but not good for small parts
Nope.
organization.
Yeah. Well, what's an example that you guys where that saved you, right? So you were going to go to Home Depot to get some random small part. What is a time that saved you going to your small parts? Because I've got countless stories. I was trying to remember early, like very specific times, but I remember I was installing a utility sink in my garage, and I needed to kind of space it off of the wall a little bit, but I didn't want to use something that was like a hard washer. I wanted to use something that had a little give to it in case I bumped into it. Just went to my spare parts and totally found something that worked. There's a little rubber old gasket or something that I had saved. It actually looks good, and it looks like it, like I bought that for that reason. And so that saved me that one time. I lost the cap to my gas can, and I don't even know where these things were, but I've got this perfectly sized cap that I had kept from something, and it fits perfectly in the nozzle of the gas can. My father-in-law did the same thing. He lost that, and I was like, I got you.
I got you.
And so
Your dream was fulfilled. You've always wanted to be that guy.
yeah, so
and you
shout
were
out
that
to
guy.
you, Dale. You'll know what I'm talking about. I gave him this. He was over at my house and was like, take this little blue cap. It will fit in the nozzle. And he texted me later. He's like, you were right. It fit perfectly. So anyways,
Yeah,
just two little examples. But
Yeah, my dad was a master at this. He's an engineer, and he was highly organized in the garage. And the only reason it was ever unorganized if one of his 5 male children was misplacing his things. So that didn't rub off as much on me, obviously. But he has saved, countless projects, like you said. He'll just be working on a project, and we'll say, well, we need this particular thing. And he knows. He's the guy that knows. I've got that somewhere, and he can go right to it. For me personally, a lot of even though I'm not the most organized in my hardware situation, I do often come across just whatever project, like an eyelet that you can like screw into the ceiling. Like we have a couple in
totally.
here, like things like that, where you just need a quick fix for something. And if you can go out to your garage and just hunt it down, that just saves a lot of headache and cost.
do you guys ever, when you're at Home Depot, you need a particular screw or something that probably not, you don't need as many of that are in this bigger
Yes.
box? Just like, you know what? I'm going to buy the bigger box.
totally.
Just
Yeah.
so I can have it at home. in my
Almost
spare
every
part.
time.
Yeah.
That's how I approach it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also, have you guys ever had the feeling when you walk into Home Depot or the hardware store? I've always had this like daydream about having that at my house. You know what I mean?
Wait,
Having the whole
no.
aisle. in your
Yeah,
house.
just having
man.
all those containers of all the stuff just like neatly
Yeah,
organized.
all the big drawers.
Yeah, I'm never going to use that, but it would be so awesome. And then when somebody needs something, I'm like, bro, come.
You should do that just on a much smaller scale where you have like 5 of each thing. You
Yeah,
know,
well,
just
I've-
start investing like a prepper would with food. You should do it with nuts and bolts.
I mean, I've looked into. You can buy these, these kits, these hardware kits. Basically, it's the same kind of container that you see at the hardware store. It's the drawer. Mm-hmm. You pull out the whole tray,
Yeah,
and then
got
you
the
lift.
separators in
You
it.
lift the lid up, and it's all neatly organized. So you can buy these things on Amazon. I just haven't. I mean, they're usually a lot of money, and I would want like the grade 8 bolts, right? If I'm going to do it, I'm going to get the
Not
nice,
the cheap stuff. Yeah.
the nice ones.
Yep.
So, anyways, but Dave, has there been a time where that's saved you?
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, but it did happen recently where I was putting a washer in, and what are those? They're collars that fit over like a rubber hose, and they're kind of perforated, and you can screw them down. They have a screw on them.
Yep,
You know what I'm talking
a
about?
hose clamp.
Yeah, hose clamp. So I had a few of those laying around. Needed one.
Those are nice.
I went and checked, and I was like, sweet, I got it. Put it on, and I was good to go.
Yeah, actually, just yesterday, no lie, my deck, after a consult from my structural engineering buddy, I realized my deck could use a couple more structural screws in them in certain areas.
a smart guy you were talking to.
Yeah, he was. Not so much anymore. He's sitting next to me. But I go to Home Depot, and this is partly a save yourself story, but partly due to disorganization. Months back, I bought like enough of those bolts to do it, and then never got around to doing it. Well, I literally forgot that I had already bought all this stuff, so went to Home Depot yesterday and rebought this list of bolts that I needed, and got home, came up short, was putting them in, where I thought I needed them, came up short, went back in the garage and found the old bag. So, hey,
Nice.
I was
Hey, there you
completely
go.
disorganized, but had extra parts.
You were going to need them anyways, right?
You are
Yeah.
going to need them. Tim, I got one more story for you. I have gone to Home Depot and bought, and this is kind of cheating, okay? But I've bought like a small container of just a bunch of like washers, a bunch of screws, a bunch of bolts, like kind of, like a small parts bin. Bought that and just kind of topped off the drawers just to make sure. If I need something, I got it.
Oh, I would do the same thing. Yeah.
I've done that with, I do that a lot actually with wire nuts, electrical wire nuts.
yep.
Like whenever I'm in that aisle working on a project, like we just framed out my in-laws' cabin basement and ran all the electrical for it. And anytime I'm on that aisle, I just buy a big bag of randomly assorted wire nuts.
That's good
'Cause
to
you
know
always
because
need
I
them.
need some and I don't have any.
Got it.
Well,
be sneaking
before you
by.
go and buy some, Dave, look, I have said goodbye to wire nuts. Have I told you guys this?
No.
I use those push-in connectors. Have you guys seen these?
Yeah, the clear plastic.
Yeah, it's like you buy them in different, like they've got like 2-port, 3-port, 4-port, and they're just push-in connectors, and they're amazing. It is so much more well organized, and
don't
you
like
can.
'em.
What? You don't like them?
Well, that's because he's
I don't
stocked up on wire.
Have you
I
ever
don't
used
think-
them?
I have, because a lot of like ceiling fans will come. A lot of the ceiling fans or chandeliers will come with that. Like
Really?
yeah, like the wire coming out of the actual chandelier will already be pushed into one of those push-on connectors, and then you just take your live wire and plug them in.
I haven't seen that. I want to see that to make sure it's the same thing that I'm
Totally
talking
seen it.
about.
Anyway, I like the old school. I mean, I don't even know if it's old school, but I feel like it just gives a better connection, like more surface area touching each other on the wires. Because those push-in connectors are literally only a blade that's like touching on two sides of the wire.
I think they're
But hey,
awesome.
that's me.
Seriously, try them
Personal
out,
preference.
Dave. That would you just get a pack
We'll
of
have
those.
another episode on the war between wire nuts and push-in connections.
I want to get an electrician's view on it, and I guarantee you they're probably going to say the wire nuts.
They're
Just
probably going to say it's better, but it's probably also negligible.
well, and there's some the type of connectors I'm talking about obviously are way more expensive than the wire nuts. So I don't know. I really like them.
I'm in
So,
the wire nut camp.
Yeah,
Clearly.
Dave, you should.
Let it be clear.
you
I'm
should
not
check
in
into
either.
that.
I'm not in either camp, so I
Hey,
could be swayed
next
one way or another.
electrical, come borrow
It's
some
coming
wire
up.
nuts and borrow some push-in connectors.
It's coming up this week, so I'll sneak.
All right, I
sneak up
love
on 'em.
electrical work, so let me know if you need some help.
Yeah,
we'll do that.
Well, anyways, this is a pretty short segment here. I've actually got the bonus segment for us, which I'm going to take a little bit more time on. I think
right.
maybe it'll go quicker. But anyway, so just to recap, look, if you're getting serious about doing things yourself, this is a must-have. So if you're early on in your journey with DIY, don't throw stuff away and keep it organized so you can come back to it later on another project.
Yeah, and let me say one thing about starting this collection of nuts and bolts. You're not going to the store to buy these things and then storing them, just buying them to store them. These are things that come as extra parts from projects usually. Like ceiling fans are notorious for extra parts. And like I swear I could fill a bin with just extra screws and metal plates and all kinds of different washers and rubber gaskets from ceiling fans or ceiling fixtures, or putting your kids' toys together. A lot of those will come with extra parts. Putting a crib together, extra parts, extra screws.
Don't say IKEA furniture, because when I put together IKEA furniture, I'm going to the small parts bin because it's always short.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
They're not going to give you extra surplus for sure.
The Swedes are stingy.
Sorry, didn't mean to tag on, but that's kind of where you can start if you're a DIYer. Like first getting into it is you're working on these projects and you start accumulating this extra stuff and you just start dumping it in one container. We're saying start organizing that stuff.
Yeah, well, if you have to start just with the one container, that's fine.
Yep.
Just start dumping it all. If you don't have much, it's not going to warrant you buying the the organization thing. However, at Harbor Freight, they're seriously like $14 or something. And I've had mine for years. I mean, they've held up. It's totally fine. I've actually mounted them on the wall. I have a blog post about small parts organization that I will link to in our show notes, including pictures of the one and only Bob. And so I've got some of his old war photos and stuff like that on there for you to check out. Pretty cool stuff.
That's awesome. I haven't seen that in a while. I'm going to go check that out again. It looks awesome.
Yeah. So just a kind of a way to honor him as well. Wanted to put that out there because I talked to his grandson, and a lot of people just did not know his story. I knew, I lived in the neighborhood my entire life, up until I was, 17 or whatever. And I never knew some of this stuff until seriously like a year ago when I talked to his grandson and he gave me all the details of his grandfather's war experience. I'm like, man, I really wish that I would have known that back when I actually knew him when he was alive.
We're losing a lot of national treasures in our old war vets.
For sure. Yeah, so just to recap, keep your small parts. It's an integral part of doing things yourself. We'll be back after the break.
This episode is sponsored by 1776 United. 1776 United is a patriotic and historically inspired lifestyle brand. They make the best patriotic shirts and apparel on the market today. I personally own many of their products, and if you want to don patriotic gear without looking gaudy, check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and at 1776united.com. All right, welcome back. So, today's end segment is going to be with Tim. So, Tim, what you got for us?
You Can Man Trivia.
Oh, snap.
Trivia time.
Here we go.
Trivia, but not just any trivia, guys. Because I talked about Bob today and his war experience.
Oh.
This is World War II trivia.
Okay, this is going to
Okay.
be
Oh, boy.
really good or really bad.
I can already say it's going to be really bad.
I hope you guys were listening in history class.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
I think guys are going to do all right on some of these.
Don't
learned
set us up for failure,
More
Tim.
about world wars in the past 2 years than my whole entire life.
Okay.
Previous.
Now I'm going to leave this up to you guys. Do you actually want to keep score and do the your name is your buzzer thing? We can if you want.
We can do name as your buzzer. I don't think we need to keep score.
We probably need to keep score. I think it's highly important.
Okay, now I'm going to, since this is my segment, guys, all right, I'm going to make a rule that you cannot call out your name until the full question has been asked.
Like Jeopardy.
Yeah.
And all the multiple choice have been said.
Multiple choice. All right.
Because most all of these, I think all of them, are multiple
All
choice.
right. Let's get into
How many
it.
questions do we have?
I've got 10.
All right.
Okay, but I think some of them are going to go kind of quick.
Okay. Let's
Okay,
do it.
World War II trivia. Are you guys ready?
No.
Let's do it.
Okay. Question 1. How many domestic automobiles were produced in the U.S. after the bombing of Pearl Harbor between February 1942 and October 1945?
Wow.
A, 0, 2, 2,500, or 3, 15,000.
Wow.
Y'all are taking too long.
I'm going with Josh.
Okay.
2,500. I don't know which one that was.
Dave, you got a guess?
Dave. A.
You don't have
I'm going to go with
say.
0.
0 is correct.
Wow.
Yeah, because they put all
down.
they shut that thing down because all that production went over to wartime
Man, America was
production. Isn't that
awesome.
crazy?
Yeah.
That there was no domestic
What was the
automobiles?
date? Like, what was the? Did you say after the bomb was
After
dropped?
the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Oh, okay, Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, so from early 1942 to late 1945.
Man,
Okay, I
What?
would have been much more. For some reason, I heard like the bombing of Nagasaki, and so I would have been much more confident because during World War II, like people were donating metal. You know, like
Yeah, but
everything
it's
was
amazing-
shut down.
But it's amazing that all the car companies were just like,
Everybody,
oh, now we
yeah.
do this.
Everybody's
Like,
on, yeah.
Well, and honestly, they probably made way more money.
Sure.
You know,
government
switching
contracts.
You know, they had to outfit all of these factories to switch over to make. You know, you hear
Tanks,
these crazy.
planes,
yeah,
yeah.
Ford's making tanks or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, no, the number of planes and tanks they were putting out, just shocking, staggering numbers.
How do they? I mean, how do you retool your whole factory to
American
do that?
ingenuity.
Do we still have that?
dude.
I don't know if we still have that, man. I don't know if we could do. I don't.
I bet we could.
We could do it if we had to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay,
That's crazy.
Moving on. Question 2. Before Japan's surrender, there were plans for possibly launching a third atomic bomb. Which city was targeted for this final assault? A, Tokyo, 2, Osaka, or 3, Kyoto?
Dave,
Josh.
C.
False.
Oh, that was my guess.
Really?
It wasn't Tokyo.
Yes, it
It
was.
was Tokyo.
That was my second
Because
guess.
look,
Wow.
I mean, I didn't elaborate on the answer here, but and this is my own personal opinion, so I actually didn't read about why that was, but I would assume, you know, they dropped the first, and then they were expecting like they're going to surrender,
Right.
And they didn't.
Escalation.
They didn't. So they're thinking, okay, and they made the incredibly difficult decision of having to drop the second one. And of course, you know, we know the history that they surrendered at that point. But I would assume, you know, they had plans. If they do not surrender
Right.
after this second one, we have to go for the heart.
Man,
I mean, I
that's
guess
crazy.
Anyways, Tokyo, yeah, that was it. That was going to be
Wow.
the third assault. All right, question 3. What was a Liberty steak? Like steak is in the meat.
Okay.
Liberty steak.
Is this multiple choice?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it is.
You got to get something.
Sorry. A, Spam. B, K rations. Or C, hamburger.
Dave,
Oh, yeah.
B.
Eh.
I'm going to go C.
Yeah, it's a hamburger because think about it.
I was going
the-
to guess that with no multiple choice.
Yeah, so the Liberty steak was a common hamburger because,
But it was German.
right, hamburger,
Yeah.
right? It was German. So the marketers,
Hamburg.
they were fearing the name would somehow be confused with some sort of Nazi stuff.
Like
So
French
they-
fries
No,
today.
well, freedom fries. Don't you remember
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, when I don't even remember why.
Freedom doors.
Yeah, I don't know. But so yeah, they changed it for the duration of the war. Obviously, they changed it back, but it was because they didn't want to be associated with Nazis.
That's
So
so
they're like,
funny.
you know what? Screw this. We're going to call it
That's
Liberty
funny.
Steak.
Wow.
That's funny.
Anyway, I had never heard of that. Okay.
I want to ask World War II guys if they actually called it that, or if that was like freedom fries, where it was a
Right.
thing, but no one actually said it.
I don't know.
After 9/11, I walked into an Atlanta bread company, and they used to have, probably still do have it, French onion soup. I walked in, and on the board it said Freedom Onion Soup.
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
All right. This next question is really interesting. Did any of Hitler's relatives fight for the Allies? A, no, definitely not. B, yes, Hitler's brother. Or C, yes, Hitler's nephew. Anybody?
I'll go with Hitler's brother, Josh.
Thank you, Josh. I was going to say his
Hitler's
brother as well.
Okay, it was not his brother, it was his nephew.
Okay.
But I was just blown away that there was a relative of his that actually
Fought for the Allies.
Yeah.
Okay, so Hitler's nephew, William Hitler.
He had to change that.
Well, yeah.
Well,
Did
and
he
I
just
looked
get
in-
hazed nonstop?
Well, I looked at, yeah, he totally changed it. So, served in the U.S. Navy during the war. He
That
changed.
is crazy.
I
U.S.
know.
Navy.
Now he was I think he was technically like a half nephew because it was Hitler's half brother's son.
Okay.
So like a half nephew, but still, I mean, he was blood.
That's
to-
interesting.
He was
Yeah,
blood
that's
with.
good.
With
Never heard
Hitler.
that.
How did he
before.
end up on the Allies side?
I didn't get that far down.
Parents
I
probably
think,
immigrated to America.
I think it was. Oh, I know what it was. His mother was Irish, and then somehow they ended up in America.
Wow.
I don't know. But he changed his name to William, or quote, Willie Patrick Stewart Houston. That sounds like a really American name.
Well,
right?
you have to go all the way to the other side, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Houston.
That's what
Nice.
I guess people called him Willie.
There you go.
That was pretty cool. Okay, question 5. The Enola Gay was the name of the B-29 bomber that dropped the first atomic bomb over the port city of Hiroshima, Japan. What was the name of the aircraft that dropped the second bomb over Nagasaki? A, Boxcar, B, Big Boots, or C, Reliant?
Josh. A.
Oh, did you actually know
Knew that one.
Okay, yes, that is correct. Boxcar was named for its usual pilot, so they switched at like the last minute or something. So the usual guy his last name was Boxcar,
Okay.
but a guy named was named for his usual pilot, Frederick Bach, and I guess his nickname was Boxcar.
Probably.
I don't know. So on the actual day of the bombing, though, Bach was in another B-29 designed to take scientific measurements of the blast. So that guy that the plane was named after, he was in another plane, like taking pictures or something. I don't
Crazy.
know. All right, question 6. Kamikaze pilots were dreaded Japanese weapons during the war. About how many kamikaze pilots intentionally crashed their planes into enemy targets during the conflict? A, 500, B, 2,800, or C, 10,000?
Dave.
What you got?
A.
False.
Man.
Josh?
Josh. B.
Yep, that's it. Approximately 2,800 Japanese pilots died in kamikaze raids during the war. Their efforts killed over 4,900 sailors and destroyed 34 U.S. ships.
Wow.
So it's like almost a 2-for-1 kind of thing.
Yeah, but the ship number's low, which is
How many
good.
ships?
34. I mean, that's
But
I don't know
we
what
had
they're counting as ships.
We had thousands of ships.
Yeah.
Thousands. Like, that's not even a blip.
and maybe that.
I mean, that's a lot of people, obviously. But
that's
as
just
far as
saying-
our ships.
Yeah.
it's saying that how many they destroyed. So
Yeah.
I'm sure they damaged. A
Yeah,
lot
they
of
probably
others.
hit more than that. But that's interesting. That number's lower, but that's a lot of kamikaze.
All right, question 7.
All right, 7. So score update is 3-1 bad. 3-1 bad guys. 3-1 Nazis.
I told you we don't need to keep score, Dave.
Like, hey,
Yeah.
I can still come back. All right. I hope you have a
Okay.
bonus question.
All right,
Worth
question
10 points.
Question 7. What country lost the most lives in World War II? A.
Dave.
You're
I
breaking
know.
the rules.
I
dude.
know. All right, go.
Okay.
DQ.
A. Germany. B. France. C. Japan. Or D. The Soviet Union.
Dave.
Go.
D.
That's right.
By far.
That was my answer.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I feel like fairly recently.
The numbers are staggering.
Yes.
Like how many, I'd say Russians, but yeah, Soviet fighters.
Yeah, Germany and Soviet
Because they
Union,
kept going.
They were not
just kept
playing
going
around.
and going and going.
Those
Yeah.
two countries were not playing around.
You know, and they had to fight the war on their actual soil.
Yeah.
So that's what really contributed to those numbers. So most estimates agree that the Soviet Union suffered the highest number of total deaths in World War II, between 22 and 28 million people.
It's unreal.
That is
Which-
unbelievable. What was the population of the U.S. at that time?
Don't have that fact, but I do have the total loss of the Soviet Union's population, percentage wise. What do you
Okay.
guys think that was? Total loss of lives in terms of how big their population was, percentage.
I'm going with like 12 to 15%.
Dang, right there at 14% of their population. It's crazy.
Man, yeah, the U.S. population in 1945 was 140 million.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
crazy.
unreal. That's unreal.
25 million.
Okay, so by comparison, the U.S. lost 420,000. So you've got 20. Okay, let's call it.
That is staggering.
Let's call it 25 million people, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, for Soviet Union, and then we lost 420,000.
That's
Wow.
just unbelievable.
Insane.
Wow.
Totally crazy. Okay, moving on. Question 8. Only a few more to go here, guys. All right. Here we go. What was the last major battle of World War II? A. Battle of Jutland. B. Battle of Okinawa. C. Battle of Iwo Jima. Or D. Battle of Wake Island.
Dave,
Go.
D.
Incorrect. Josh?
Iwo Jima.
Incorrect.
Yeah.
All right. It was actually the Battle of Okinawa. It was the last major battle of World War II and also one of its bloodiest. And it was started on April 1st, 1945, which was Easter Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the battle. I did a little bit of reading about it. And did you guys see there was a movie, I think, about, or maybe it was that series, but they
The Pacific.
maybe. Yeah, they landed and they were expecting just to get destroyed when they landed. And of course, they had done air assaults, you know, prior to. But there was little to no Japanese fire on them. Well, that's because they wanted to draw them in, and then that's when the action really started.
Wow.
So the article I was reading, it was like, you know, they could have just swam right up to the beach and it would have been just fine. But
Wow.
crazy, crazy stuff. Okay.
So
Moving-
just perspective, real quick. I got that number of Russian losses was so big. It's 55 times more men lost than the U.S.
Unreal. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Ugh. All right, question 9. What was the Nazi code name for a planned invasion of the United Kingdom during World War II? So the invasion of Britain, you know, they had been bombing them and bombing them and bombing them for so long. And they had planned, we're going to invade, right? So what was the code name, the German code name for that? I'll give you some options. Okay, so
Need
A,
them.
Operation Crown. B, Operation Battle Axe. C, Operation Overlord. Or D, Operation Sea Lion.
You know, it's funny. You read the question, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know that. And then none of them, you know, like ring a bell. Because I've read about this stuff, but I'm retaining it.
Anybody?
Josh.
Okay.
D.
D. You were correct. Operation Sea
The
Lion.
other ones seem too on the nose.
Now what? Okay, bonus here, Josh. What was Operation Overlord? Come on, guys. Come on.
Was that a Nazi?
No. That was our term.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah.
But was it the invasion of D-Day?
Yeah. Invasion of
Nice.
Normandy.
D-Day
Overlord.
invasion? Yeah.
Yeah, so Operation Sea Lion was a Nazi Germany code name for a provisionally proposed invasion of the United Kingdom during the Battle of Britain.
I bet they named it after Churchill because he looks like a sea lion or something.
Probably.
I've got the German name here, but I would
Don't even try it.
completely butcher it. But I'll have everything on the show notes if you want to check it
Nice.
out. All right. Last question, guys. This one hits home. All right.
okay.
We're going to talk. This question has to do with Marietta, Georgia, where we all live. All right.
And this question's worth 2 points so that I could tie.
Let's just call it 10 points.
All right. Yeah.
I mean, we might as well at this point. Right?
All or nothing.
All right. I do have a bonus after this that has to do with this question, so you could redeem yourself. Dave, you could. All right. How many B-29 bombers did the Bell Bomber Plant in Marietta, Georgia produce during World War II? Now, I'm not going to give you multiple choice.
Okay.
This is
Closest.
Price is Right. So whoever is
Wait, can you go over? Or let's just do closest.
Well, I'm gonna say closest without going over.
Oh.
All right, closest without going over. So
Can you
each got
read that question one more time?
How many B-29 bombers did the Bell Bomber Plant in Marietta, Georgia produce during World War II? Man, you looking it up. You googling over there.
I'm
Dan?
gonna go.
They didn't start producing until spring in 1943. If that helps you,
That doesn't.
There's a little
gives me no
hint.
help.
Yeah,
Zero
not
help.
really. I'm gonna go. This is gonna be close or way off, right? I'm gonna go 6,500.
Holy cow. Okay.
Okay, that's way over.
I was going to go way under that. Like my first number was like 50.
Okay, and that's way under. Okay,
But Dave wins.
but Dave wins. Well, he was closer technically to. What did
This
you
is
say?
one plant.
6,500.
All right,
6,500.
what's the number?
The number is 663.
Out of one
I
plant.
meant 650.
How many? So do you? I'm probably don't have this information, but how many plants were there producing these planes?
I didn't get that. There were multiple plants.
Yeah.
for sure.
Probably about 6,500 cumulatively between all the plants.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I do know that I read that at the time of the Bell Bomber plant, there was nothing there. They built this for this reason,
Yeah.
right? And it was the largest building of its kind in the entire southern United States. So it was a
Wow.
massive, massive building. But yeah, they built 663 Boeing design B-29s, and the first of which were delivered before the end of that year. So they started in the spring of 43 and already had produced,
Those are the kind of things that are crazy to me about that era is the design and build of these super complex aircraft within such a short period
they
of
didn't
time.
have the red tape that we do, I think.
But they also didn't have like the CAD. Like these
They
are guys
didn't, but
like
I mean, these
hands-
things were. I mean, I obviously wasn't around back then, but I think they were cobbled together, right? Like these things were not precision.
yeah, I'm sure the machining and everything wasn't perfect precision, but there's still like engines.
Yeah,
and
with
all
that
the functionality.
You're right. With that said, like I was gonna say, I can't imagine us doing stuff like on that scale these
Yeah.
days. It's just it's staggering the amount
It's
of
like
production.
like the Apollo program 20 years later.
but yeah, you're right. The whole production, like from designing it and implementing it, and just
and
start
then
to
sending
finish.
it over to fly.
That's crazy.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think things like that would have to be privatized now. Like, I don't think our government is capable
No.
of handling something like that without just getting bogged down.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys staying up tonight for the SpaceX Falcon Heavy launch?
Wasn't planning on it.
Okay,
No.
well, it's happening tonight. If you're
I usually watch like the recap of those
Yeah, me
things.
too.
The highlights.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting there.
they're
for-
going to try to land 3 boosters this time. All three boosters.
Okay.
The only time I've like it wasn't staying up, but it was like for 5 hours on a Sunday morning when you remember
Felix
when he
Baumgartner,
jumped out of
yeah.
that balloon in space. Like
Yes.
I was glued to the TV.
That was during work.
Yeah, and he did it. May have been more
watched
than
it at
twice.
work.
It was 2 times because the first time they called it off, and I had been sitting there for like 3 hours watching this, and they called it off. I was like,
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right. Last bonus question having to
do
do with
this.
the Bell Bomber plant. And this is for our listeners. This is what would you say, like 3-4 miles down the road? From
I don't know
us?
where it is.
Yes.
Maybe
It's Lockheed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well that was my guess.
Yeah.
but,
The plant is still there, and now it's owned by Lockheed
No,
Martin.
yeah.
So
As
it's
the crow flies, 3 miles.
Yeah. it's
and that
gotta
place
be.
is huge, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
enormous.
totally. All right, bonus question. How many workers did the Bell Bomber plant have at its peak?
50.
During
No, just
World War
kidding.
II?
Josh, 6,500.
Yeah, use the same
Way
numbers.
under. Dave, you got a guess?
No,
Okay.
6,500 is way under.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Wow.
So the Bell Bomber plant reached its peak employment of 28,158 workers in February 1945.
Wow.
And 9 out of 10 of those workers were Southerners, and a lot of them came from North Georgia.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did they house them, or do they just kind of live in the area?
I didn't get that far into it. I do know that there's, well, maybe that was after the fact. Yeah, I guess I was into the 50s, but I think a lot of them stayed on, probably, right? And
Yeah, I mean, this plant is the beginnings of why we're in such a highly dense suburban area.
Yeah, Marietta, 20 minutes outside of Atlanta. Did you know at the time, too, we had streetcars that ran? It's funny, that we don't have good public transportation between here and Atlanta, really, in Cobb County, which Marietta, Georgia. But at the time,
that 7-lane highway each way. That's
there's
good.
that. But they had it was funny. They had a streetcar at one time that ran, in between.
Into the city.
Yeah, so they were probably having workers from Atlanta as well. So, anyways, hey, thanks for participating, guys. Did you
Very
guys keep
interesting.
track on the score there?
Good
I think
stuff.
It was 4-2 going into the last one, and you said it was worth 10 points, and I got it right, so I win.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
there you go. I always enjoy the trivia. You guys let us
Trivia's
know.
a good time.
You guys let us know if you enjoy the trivia, because when I'm listening to podcasts that might have something like the radio show, questions like that, I really enjoy that because I'm shouting out the answers, Let us know if you guys enjoy that as well.
Or if you have ideas for some trivia.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Heck, we'll even entertain questions, if you want to quiz us.
Yeah.
I don't know how we do that. Well, I guess one of us would have to
Make it happen. We'll
be
make it happen.
be the host or the moderator of the trivia. But all right, so that's going to wrap it up today. As always, please take time to check out our show notes at youcanman.com. Check out our Facebook page and our Instagram page. We'll catch you guys next time.